Chapter 13. The trick of this technique is dispersing incoming force. To use it, one must have a strong foundation. If you master and embody it, you can disperse great power. Those were the words of Jo Il-ryang, who taught Yoo Jin-hyuk the technique. Although Il-ryang had a slender body, he could survive for half a day on one foot while 10 people tried to push him down. And Jin-hyuk, who learned that skill, was confident that he could somewhat replicate that. No way! The skill he was so proud of shattered by a simple force. Even Lady Zhang, who told her husband to watch proudly, was shocked and bewildered. Mumu is really strong. I told you, they whispered quietly. Yoo Jin-hyuk wanted to show them something, but now they were afraid that he would lose his spirit because of the failure. At that time, Yoo Jin-hyuk said with a red face, Let's do it again. Again? I made a mistake. I haven't fully mastered the technique my teacher showed me, so you were able to push me away. He didn't want to disgrace his teacher. This kid. Yoo Yup-kyung felt proud when his son didn't succumb to the failure and asked for another try. His son had grown up right. Even though he didn't know what martial arts was, he was proud of his son, who stood tall. The quarrel between Yoo Jin-hyuk, who wanted to regain his lost self-esteem, and Mumu, who thought it was bothersome, continued for some time. Yoo Yup-kyung, who was worried that the fight would become huge if Mumu didn't say yes, convinced Mumu to retry. And thus, the family's reconciliation was carried out in a noisy manner until late at night. Early the next morning, in a training hall not far from Yoo Yup-kyung's house, a boy was sitting cross-legged. It was Yoo Jin-hyuk. He was gathering ki from the air and putting it into his dantian and body by inhaling and exhaling. This is cultivation, and Yoo Jin-hyuk was practicing it. But I can't concentrate. Usually, he would be in a state of thoughtlessness at this point. However, he wasn't able to do that and he couldn't concentrate. Just thinking about yesterday's events, he couldn't hold back to his resentment. What about the effort I put in until now? From a young age, he admired his older brother and constantly practiced martial arts. For that reason, he was praised by his teachers, and they told him there would only be a few people his age who could compete with him, and those people would be from the 9 great sects and the 6 great clans. But how was Mumu able to beat him? I got pushed back by just strength. To be honest, he wasn't just blown away by his strength. He was shocked by those huge, densely developed muscles. But no matter how much he thought about it, he couldn't understand. How can muscle strength be stronger than internal energy? Internal energy followed the concept of ki. The internal energy generated by accumulating ki would incredibly strengthen one's external power. However, Mumu, with his muscle strength, overwhelmed him. It wasn't like he was the strongest Murin warrior, but Yoo Jin-hyuk couldn't accept it. It was then. Huh? Yoo Jin-hyuk opened his eyes in shock. In front of him stood a slender middle-aged man with a goatee. It was Jo Il-ryang, one of his 3 teachers. When he was young, the man was famous, but now he took in disciples and nurtured them. Your breathing is haggard. Why aren't you concentrating? I apologize. Improperly executing cultivation is dangerous, but most people couldn't notice inconsistencies in others' cultivation. However, teachers like Jo Il-ryang, who had good ears, could tell if one was breathing properly or not, so he hit the kid with a stick. Yoo Jin-hyuk touched his aching head, and then Jo Il-ryang continued. In 3 days, the entrance test for the Heavenly Martial Arts Academy will be held. Everyone is working hard with their eyes wide open to prepare for it. But what are you doing? At those words, Yoo Jin-hyuk bowed his head in embarrassment. What the man said was right. He was actually in a state of anger about whether he would pass the test or not. Seeing the disciple who was reflecting on his emotional state, Jo Il-ryang laughed inside. This one. He's someone who isn't this distracted usually, but he seems upset as he met his father and adopted brother for the first time. Jo Il-ryang knew about the family circumstances. So even without Jin-hyuk saying anything about it, he knew what Yoo Jin-hyuk was going through. But now, the kid had to prepare for the entrance tests. Come on and focus already. If your brother got a top rank, then you'll have to aim for an even higher one. Yes. For the teacher, his students' admission to the academy was important, because if he succeeded in enlisting them, then his small training school could be famous for sending their disciples to the academy, so he wanted his disciple to focus and do his best. At that time, Yoo Jin-hyuk said, "Teacher, can concentrate?" About that, is it possible to break the mystery of the 4-way foot extreme weight technique with just physical strength? Jo Il-ryang laughed at that question. The question was childish, but he was thankful that the kid seemed all right. He laughed and said, "If you can master the technique properly, even if one applies multiple tons of force, you will be able to disperse the force and hold your ground. However, if you want to use it perfectly, you have to shift flowers to trees." Shift flowers to trees. It means to turn a flower into a tree. It's a high-level technique that returns an opponent's attack to hit the opponent back to them. Such a technique would be difficult to perform unless one's a super master and learned the technique properly. Yoo Jin-hyuk nodded at those words and said, "It must have been me who didn't learn it properly." Jo Il-ryang was puzzled by it. "Have you had the chance to compete with someone else?" If that wasn't the case, such words wouldn't have come out. Hesitating, Yoo Jin-hyuk spoke about what happened last night. Upon hearing the story, Jo Il-ryang frowned. "So you're saying that a child who didn't learn martial arts pushed you away with his strength? That was impossible. If it was someone else, it might be possible, but Yoo Jin-hyuk was on the verge of completing the technique. While it would be tough for him to cope with someone his teacher's level, he wasn't lacking too much, and it was impossible for someone who didn't know martial arts to even do that. I can't believe it either, but I'm not able to shake my thoughts." After hearing his disciple's story, Jo Il-ryang thought it wasn't impossible, so he asked him, "That child, where is he now?" There was a small forest 10 miles west of Yoo Yeop-kyung's house. Mumu, who was there, was looking for a suitable place to train. He eventually found a little valley surrounded by bushes and large and small boulders around it. To Mumu, those rocks were nothing more than training tools. He brought a few iron rods with him, but Mumu just tied a massive rock to his back and squatted repeatedly. 982, 983, 984. Mumu was happy training again after a long time. He was smiling. During the period of not training, his heart ached because the muscles he protected like children would decrease. But while stretching again, it felt like he was flying. "I need to make up for what I'll miss." He heard about the academy's entrance test. If he passed, he would live in a dormitory, and then he might not have the freedom to train. Mumu decided to work out for any days he might miss. Nice! He went to squat again, but he suddenly heard a small noise from a distance. He ignored it at first, but as it got louder, it seemed like something was approaching, so he decided to look. He turned his head towards the noise, annoyed that something was interrupting his training, and what he saw was slightly surprising but anticlimactic. He saw 2 people coming through the bushes. One of them was a man with a goatee. It was his first time seeing him, and the other one was the second son of his father. Ugh, annoying. Why did he come all the way here? He did ask where the nearest mountain was, but he didn't expect the second son to come find him. Unlike Mumu, who was annoyed by it, Yoo Jin-hyuk was shocked. What is that? Mumu squatted with that huge rock on his back. He wouldn't be able to stand with that rock's weight on his back even if he mastered internal energy, let alone squat that weight. Shockingly, Jo Il-ryang was surprised too. He did hear from his disciple about the kid, but this was beyond what he was expecting. It's no exaggeration to say that even an adult wouldn't be able to tie a large rock to their back and repeat the movement. What was even more shocking were the words coming out of the kid's mouth. 998, 999, 1000. So he squatted with that many times. It was a type of training he never did because it overuses the body's muscle. He wasn't sure who taught him such an ignorant way to train his body, but he was convinced that training like that would damage the body. However, Jo Il-ryang gulped. Indeed, Mumu didn't learn martial arts, just as his disciple said, and he only had physical strength. It could be said that he was a natural martial artist. The muscles which were visible through the sweat-soaked clothes were spectacular. He's amazing. If he trains and pushes himself to this extreme, he would do better than his teacher. It was his first time finding a gem after Yoo Jin-sung. Jo Il-ryang liked him. He even thought about taking the adopted son Mumu as his disciple. This is a good opportunity. Jo Il-ryang knew that it would be impossible to enter the Heavenly Martial Arts Academy despite his physical strength if he didn't master martial arts. Physical strength had a limit, and martial arts was literally a way of dealing with others. But if one could handle others with strength, then why learn martial arts? It would have been better if I met him when he was younger, but still, it would help me display the school. Zhou Ilryang made his decision. He was going to make Mumu his disciple and enlist him in the academy after a year. If that happened, then there was a chance more strong people would come to train under him. He, who was full of dreams, spoke to Jinhyuk. Watch, I will show you how the technique is done. With that, Zhou Ilryang moved very lightly. Mumu watched a man who was approaching him from a long distance. In an instant, he got in front of Mumu. He's fast. He never saw anyone move so fast. He did see a few fast people in the bandits he killed, but this man was faster. Mumu asked, Who are you? Are you Mumu? I'm Zhou Ilryang, one of your brother's teachers. Ah, really? Hello, I'm Mumu. At Mumu's remark, Zhou Ilryang smiled. He didn't just have a strong body, he also had a pretty face which would make any woman fall for him. But his tone and expression were innocent. Since he lived in the mountains his whole life, it's possible that he's innocent. But what are you doing here? I heard about you from Jinhyuk. Jinhyuk? Since last night, he seemed pissed off and didn't even look at Mumu. Is he actually a nice guy? He wasn't sure about that. Regardless, Zhou Ilryang approached him and then drew a circle around himself, just like Yu Jinhyuk did yesterday evening, and stood on one foot. What are you doing? Jinhyuk said that he couldn't show you the perfect form yesterday, so this mister is going to teach Jinhyuk how it's done and show you too. Ah, you mean that thing where someone tries to push you out of the circle? Yes, that's it. Can you push me out? Why me? Zhou Ilryang frowned at Mumu's response. He thought Mumu was naive, but it didn't seem like that, and he said, If you can push me out like you did to Jinhyuk, I will give you a nice present. Present? What present? You will only find out when you push me out of the circle, okay? Zhou Ilryang changed his method to make Mumu act. After Mumu failed his attempt, his greatness would be shown and he would then ask Mumu to be his disciple. While he was thinking ahead, Mumu asked, You won't go back on your words, right? I'm your brother's teacher. Would I lie to you? Come on. But you'll stand on one leg? Yes. Well, you'll be out soon then. Zhou Ilryang smiled. Don't worry. No matter how strong you are, pushing me out won't be easy. He thought Mumu had too much confidence. Zhou Ilryang concentrated his internal energy and then directed it to the foot he was standing on. The technique he used kept his center of gravity on his foot. Okay, push. Okay. Mumu placed his strong hands on Zhou Ilryang's chest and pushed. His feet, which were pushing, went into the ground. Zhou Ilryang was shocked by Mumu's power. He heard about it from Yu Jinhyuk and he saw Mumu train his body, so he knew about it, but feeling it was different. Oh! Mumu was surprised. He did his best, but he couldn't push him. Zhou Ilryang was like an old tree with roots deep in the ground. Yu Jinhyuk, who watched it, was amazed. Yu Jinhyuk, who watched it, was shocked. Amazing! No matter how many times he tried it with Mumu, he kept getting pushed back. However, his teacher could endure Mumu's strength on one foot. Jinhyuk looked at his teacher in a new light. Teacher was right. I must be lacking. Zhou Ilryang, who confirmed the two people's reactions, smiled. He was a supermaster and had pretty strong internal energy. He was confident that he could handle Mumu. Despite that, seeing Mumu's feet dent the ground still shocked him. If Mumu had mastered even basic energy cultivation, he would have lost. Still, he wanted to shine in front of Mumu, so he would accept his offer of being his disciple. Did you see that? This is the mystery of the 4-way foot extreme weight technique, where I become one. Mister, huh? You must keep this a secret from my father. What do you mean? At that moment, Mumu turned the dial on his right wristband. It went from 8 to 6. Zhou Ilryang couldn't understand what he was doing. And then, Mumu placed his hands on the man's chest. I'll try again. Zhou Ilryang laughed at Mumu's words. The child had a cute side. He didn't like losing, so he tried again. The desire to win was one of the things that Mutum warriors had, and there was nothing bad about it. Ho ho ho. Give it another try. Then I will push. Do whatever you... At that moment, Mumu's right sleeve tore, showing off his muscles. Zhou Yilrang's eyes widened as the muscles on the right arm grew. What the? His muscles are getting bigger. It was then. He couldn't hide his shock at the tremendous force which pushed against his chest. He ended up using more internal energy to stabilize himself. However, the moment Mumu's arm stretched out, thud. His connection with the earth was cut off, and Zhou Yilrang's body, unable to withstand the force, was thrown back. It was only after getting thrown 20 steps back that Zhou Yilrang was able to stop. What in the world? Such an unbelievable power. Zhou Yilrang started coughing up blood. Teacher? Yu Jinhyuk, who was watching that, was confused. Chapter 14. Zhou Yilrang, the second of the three strong teachers, was on his bed with his hands folded. When he opened his eyes, he saw a lantern flame fluttering because of the breeze coming in through the open window, and a middle-aged man with a beard sitting opposite of him. He was Mak Ilwang, the first of the three strong teachers. It was getting dark enough to light a lamp, and Mak Ilwang was reading a book as usual. Are you awake? Elder brother. After responding, Zhou Yilrang sighed. He thought that what happened with Mumu was a dream. Zhou Yilrang opened his mouth. Brother, I had a dream. Dream? Yes. It was so absurd that I don't even want to tell you about it. But if that really happened, it would be the most absurd thing that happened in my Mudim life. At Zhou Yilrang's words, Mak Ilwang took his eyes off his book and looked ahead. And then he said, You passed out for half a day, and your memory doesn't seem perfect. I'm going to get a doctor. Huh? Half a day? How? He was startled and tried to get up, but his heart was pounding. Then, Mak Ilwang approached him and asked, I want to ask one thing before getting a doctor. Who left that mark on your chest? Huh? My chest? Zhou Yilrang's expression was blank as he looked at his chest. His shirt was missing, and his chest was bruised in the shape of 2 handprints. The moment he saw that, goosebumps rose on Zhou Yilrang's body. Damn it, it wasn't a dream. It was absurd, but it seemed to have happened, and gradually, his memory cleared up. The great strength of Mumu, the adopted son in Yu Jinhyuk's family, has broken a myth about martial arts. Thanks to that, his plans failed. While he started to remember what happened, his face turned red in embarrassment. Teacher! Jinhyuk, don't tell anyone about this. He fainted after saying that. In addition to his desire to take Mumu in as a disciple, he wanted to show Yu Jinhyuk his greatness, but he was humiliated. Before he fainted, he even asked his disciple to not tell anyone about this. He was even more embarrassed after recalling everything. He never thought that he would meet such a monstrous child. How could he reveal this to his elder brother, who was looking down at him with skeptical eyes? He couldn't tell him as he would lose face, but he tried to give him some form of an answer. I was competing with someone, like... Despite trying, Zhou Yilrang decided against telling him and hastily changed the topic. Elder brother, what happened to the release of Jinhyuk's blood points? I was supposed to do it. You're asking so soon. Did Goha do it? Goha was the youngest of the teachers. Originally, he decided to take charge of the release of Jinhyuk's blood points and treatment based on a bet with him. But if he passed out like this, then things must have changed. The elder one, Mak Ilwang, clicked his tongue. I did it. Huh? I gave him my energy and opened his blood points. You did everything? Yes. What? What? Follow me. Mak Ilwang opened the door and walked out. Puzzled, Zhou Yilrang grabbed something to cover himself and rushed out. Right next door, there, he saw Goha sitting on a bed staring blankly as if he was in shock, and his right hand was swollen. Goha, who was dazed, slowly turned his head and looked at them as they entered. Zhou Yilrang mumbled and pointed his finger at the man. You too? At that, Goha looked sad. Goha felt like Zhou Yilrang knew what happened. When he saw the youngest of the 3 strong teachers, who was a master at using his body, holding his swollen right hand, it was obvious. That monstrous child. He never saw such ridiculous muscles in all his life. He couldn't understand it, and then something flashed through his mind. Wait, I told Jin-hyuk to not tell anyone. If Go-ha was like this, then Jin-hyuk must have told the truth. Jo Il-rang grabbed his head. Seeing him like that, Mak Il-wong asked as he sighed. What the hell happened while I was away? In response to such a question, Jo Il-rang and Go-ha kept their mouths shut as if they made a silent promise. At the same time, Yoo Jin-hyuk was lying on his bed with the lamps off. He was exhausted from the treatment he received and then energy cultivation. He had an especially hard time because it was Mak Il-wong who did it, so he laid down earlier than normal. Yet, he was unable to sleep. Damn it. 2 more days and he will be admitted to the Heavenly Martial Arts Academy. He waited so eagerly for that day to come, but now his heart wasn't so eager. If Mumu got accepted too, then he would be in the unfortunate situation of having to spend 2 or 3 years with that muscular idiot. No. Just the thought was terrifying. Even thinking about what happened during the day was making him want to vanish. My teachers became like that. It was because of his negligence. As his teacher said, he shouldn't have told anyone. Jo Il-rang insisted on not telling anyone, but he did, thinking that Go-ha might be able to subdue Mumu since he was much bigger than Jo Il-rang. However, the result was the same. You're the type of person I like. Wasn't Mumu? Why don't you learn martial arts? Go-ha, who was strong and acknowledged Mumu, asked. After some basic introductions, he convinced Mumu to arm wrestle with him. But while arm wrestling, his hand broke. Never tell elder brother. Like Jo Il-rang, Go-ha said the same thing. Looking at his red face, Jin-hyuk knew just how embarrassed he was. They were broken by the strength of a man who only trained his muscles. It was natural for their self-esteems to be damaged. At that, they lost in front of the disciple. Damn it, what the hell is he? He was someone who was hard to understand. 2 of his teachers, who were famous in Mudim, fell on their knees in front of Mumu's mighty strength. They didn't fight, but even if they did, Jin-hyuk wasn't sure about what the outcome would be. Mumu had enough strength to make his teachers shudder. Is it possible to be that strong by only training muscles? All 3 teachers had said that there was a limit to how strong a physical body could be trained. However, looking at Mumu, it didn't seem like that. The muscles which he trained seemed to exceed the strength of internal energy. No. Jin-hyuk shook his head. No matter how he thought about it, that didn't make sense. Isn't this something which directly contradicts the history and knowledge that has been passed down in Mudim for years? Right. It was said that the 4 great warriors can cut down a mountain peak, and that would be impossible to do by only training the body. But what are they? He wondered what the bands around Mumu's arms and ankles were. When he turned down the number, his arms grew bigger, and Mumu asked for it to be kept a secret from his father. He was tempted to use it against Mumu as it looked like a weakness, but Mumu's words made it impossible to say anything. If you promise not to tell father, I won't talk about your teachers being hurt by me anywhere. He thought Mumu was naive, but he was wrong. He knew that his teachers were ashamed of their losses and didn't want anyone knowing about them. In the end, he accepted it. Jin-hyuk, you're a pretty good guy. I really hate him. Just the thought of Mumu's smiling face annoyed him. Jin-hyuk praised to the goddess of heaven for the first time, begging for Mumu to fail the entrance test. 2 days later, Mumu and Jin-hyuk got up early to take the entrance test, which was to be held at 4 o'clock, and were being sent off by their family. After 2 hours of walking, they would arrive at the academy. Lady Zhang hugged her son and said, "If you work hard, good results will come." Mother, I will pray earnestly for you to pass the test and get along with Mumu. At least there will be a sibling to lean on. At those words, Yoo Jin-hyuk tightly shut his eyes. I wish he would fail, Mother. He hoped for that, but he never said it out loud. His father and mother wanted them to get along. However, Jin-hyuk prayed that Mumu would be eliminated. That was when Yoo Yeop-kyung approached him and said, "Son, stay healthy. I understand. And make sure that the daughter of the Criminal Affairs Minister stays safe. I think you will do well. I wish you the best of luck and get along with Mumu." The same words as his mother. Yoo Jin-hyuk felt sad, but he nodded. Once he was out of the house, He had no intention of sticking with Mumu. Finally, Yu-Yeop-kyung approached Mumu and hugged him. Son. Yes. Please don't get in trouble. Father, if I pass, you won't get to see me for a while. Is that all you have to say? No. Then go ahead and say it. You're going to the academy, so I won't tell you to not train anymore. Really? Mumu's eyes twinkled at that. Looking at that, Yu-Yeop-kyung sighed. The man in the dream told him to raise Mumu as a normal kid, but in the end he couldn't. Maybe this was Mumu's birthright. In any case, Yu-Yeop-kyung, who thought that it was his duty as a parent to pray for the best, decided to let Mumu search for his own path. Then we will leave. Mumu and Jin-hyuk were sent off by their family. Since Mumu woke up much earlier than normal, he was walking with his eyes half closed. Jin-hyuk thought it was pathetic. And since this was their first journey together, they were awkward and didn't talk to each other. After walking down the road for about half an hour, clank, huh? The sound of horses and wheels could be heard. Jin-hyuk was puzzled since it was early in the morning and he looked at where the sound was coming from. What he saw was a luxurious carriage coming their way. It came so quickly that it made dust rise from the ground. What? They were shocked when the carriage stopped right in front of them and then its window rattled open, revealing a face. It was none other than Mo Il-hwa. Pointing her thumb towards the inside of the carriage, she shouted at them, Hey, get in! Chapter 15. Hey, get in! Mumu and Jin-hyuk were almost swept away by the carriage's speed. At first, Jin-hyuk was puzzled because he didn't know who Mo Il-hwa was, but after hearing about her from Mumu, he was surprised, because this was the woman they needed to look after. Jin-hyuk thought it was a troublesome task, but he noticed something interesting. She's trained in martial arts. Jin-hyuk was able to feel others' levels after having his blood points released. Therefore, he could sense the fact that she wasn't someone who was learning martial arts for fun. Oh, is this a carriage? This is my first time riding one, Mumu said as he looked around inside. Jin-hyuk frowned at Mumu's way of speaking and clasped his hands as he politely spoke. I apologize, Lady Mo. This guy lived in the mountains, so he ended up speaking without honorifics. Enough. We're the same age anyway. Huh? Don't be intimidated by my father's request and let's be friends. Jin-hyuk didn't like her arrogant attitude because he thought she was clubbing him and the idiot besides him together. Unlike him, Mumu said something interesting. You're different from what I thought. When we first met, you were quite... Oh my, that was just a facade. Now do you know? I've always been a woman like this. I can see that. Jin-hyuk was embarrassed by the way Mumu was having a casual conversation with her. What kind of attitude is this towards the daughter of the criminal affairs minister? You really... Why? She told us it was fine. Mumu tilted his head, asking what the problem was. At that, Jin-hyuk scolded him. Are you really acting like this because you're unaware of who she is? No matter how comfortable, you as... Hey, I said it was fine. Huh? But... When I become your sister-in-law later, you can speak like that. How about that? Got it? Mo Il-hwa touched her red cheeks after saying that. Jin-hyuk was confused. When will she become his sister-in-law? What the hell did that mean? Lady, I don't seem to understand what you're trying to say. Keep pretending like you don't know. I'm definitely going to marry Sir Yoo Jin-sung, so let's get along well. My brother? Yes, I'm envious of you. How does it feel living with your older brother? My brother is such an idiot. Only half of his brain works. She talks so much. Jin-hyuk was restless, but there was one thing he knew for sure. She was the type of woman who would occasionally go to a friend's house and keep going on and on and on like a broken record. This was all because his brother's popularity rose once he cleared his father's name. Ah, is that so? Said Jin-hyuk. When he found out that she was someone who was aiming for his brother, he decided to tone it down. Actually, Jin-hyuk didn't really like any woman he saw going after his brother because he wanted his brother, whom he respected and liked, to meet a true warrior who was worthy of him. But he hasn't seen anyone like that yet. Seeing his appearance and expression change, Mo Il-hwa asked, What is with that reaction? So lifeless. She was quick-witted. Jin-hyuk clasped his hand and responded, I don't know much about my brother, and if you're interested in him, I think it would be better for you to talk to him separately. Jin-hyuk cut the conversation off. He wanted to draw a line in advance because a lot of women would talk to him wanting to get with his older brother. Mo Il-hwa pouted. He's more troublesome than I thought. Having introduced herself, she thought that things would be easy from then on, but now it seemed like a tough task. Thinking about Yoo Jin-sung, she calmed her mind. There was no need to worry. After all, they were going to spend 2 to 3 years together, and there would be plenty of opportunities. What is with you both? I know my father told you to watch over and protect me, but don't listen to that, she suddenly yelled. Jin-hyuk shook his head at her attitude. That is something we have to do, since our father told us to. Although he hadn't fully accepted it yet, Jin-hyuk didn't want to cause more trouble for his father. Mo Il-hwa snorted at those words. I'm not soft or weak. It was a request, so I can't help it. And the daughter of the man is telling you that they're fine. Either be my friend, or you'll be a bother by following me, and I don't want you to bother me. Jin-hyuk didn't have a chance to decide. Once I make a promise, I keep it. It's my job to keep an eye on the lady and make sure nothing happens. Do you think I'm weak? I never said that. Ting! At that moment, Mo Il-hwa pulled something out from her waist. Jin-hyuk was shocked because he thought she was trying to loosen her dress, but she pulled out a soft sword. Soft swords are much thinner than normal ones, and they have elasticity, so they are flexible. With that, she swung her sword. Jin-hyuk was shocked by the way the sword vibrated and wiggled more than normal ones. I figured that she learned martial arts, but I didn't think she was this strong. At this level, she was no way inferior to him. With a triumphant expression, she smiled and said, How was it? It was good. Right? Because my teacher is Enemy's secret soft sword. Enemy's secret soft sword? He was shocked again. Enemy's secret soft sword, Ma Cho-hyun. Like Jin-hyuk's 3 strong teachers, it was a famous name in this time period. A great person who never fell when compared to other warriors. He heard that that person wasn't going to take disciples for 40 years, but who would have thought that Mo Il-hwa would get a chance to learn under him? If she is that person's disciple, there is no need to worry, Jin-hyuk admitted. The woman wasn't going to allow them to follow and protect her either. At that time, Mumu looked at the soft sword. It's different. It's fluttering. Like a butterfly, right? My teacher gave me this. It's called a butterfly sword. Pretty, right? Butterfly sword. It was literally like a butterfly. Mumu laughed. Since it's a butterfly sword, the sword is made to look similar to a butterfly. That's funny. Jin-hyuk, who paid attention to her words, tried hard to hide his shock. The woman was proud of it. How could Mumu laugh? Have you gone insane? Jin-hyuk hit Mumu's elbow, but it was too late. Mo Il-hwa licked her lips and spoke to Mumu in an irritated voice. What? Funny? Do you want a go? I'm sorry. Mumu immediately apologized. Since he apologized quickly, it was difficult to say anything more. It was because every time Mumu said something, she didn't feel any malice. In a cheerful voice, she said, If you weren't so good-looking, this pretty Nuna of yours would have put a sword through your mouth. Watch your words, okay? Huh? Okay. Mo Il-hwa folded her arms and turned away to calm her anger. When she, who was the most talkative, went silent, the carriage moved in silence. Jin-hyuk didn't talk to Mumu either. Around 4 o'clock, the carriage with 3 people inside arrived at the academy. Thanks to the carriage ride, Mumu was able to get some sleep. On the other hand, Jin-hyuk was nervous the whole time and his stomach felt bloated. The coachman, who was driving the carriage, said, Lady, there are too many people. You will have to walk from here. As it was said, the entrance was flooded with people. The 3 of them got out and then looked at the huge crowd that was in front of the academy, which looked like a palace. It was spectacular enough to live up to its reputation. It was fitting of the royal family member who was the founder. There are a lot of people. Even though there is normally a lot, there are too many right now. There seemed to be tens of thousands of people. They took in talented people regardless of social status, so it was natural for people from all over the empire to come. Mo Il-hwa clicked her tongue. It looks like it will take a long time to take the test. I know. If I knew this was the case, I would have brought something. It sure looked like it would take a very long time to take the test. Jin-hyuk looked around as he felt that his courage had revived. Several famous clan members were present. Moyong clan, Hwangbo clan, Sword clan, even the people of the oldest clans are here. The capable ones stood out. They were here because after leaving the academy, their clans and their names would be more recognized. When his brother entered too, it must have been like this. Amidst all this, my brother completed the course. He respected him. The thought that he didn't want to become someone who would degrade his brother's reputation sparked a fire in his heart. He wanted to at least get results comparable to his brother. Why doesn't this show any signs of decreasing? Mo'ilhwa grunted. Although kids of famous clans were present, there still seemed to be tens of thousands of people. Aren't they going to let us in? It was at this moment when they were puzzled. Someone came up to the woman and said, You came to the entrance test without even knowing anything. Huh? She looked and saw a thin-eyed boy in a navy uniform standing next to her. He looked about 17 to 18 years old, the same age that one needed to be able to take the test. Jinhyuk, who was wary of him, asked, And you must be. I was rude. I'm Haeryang from the Lower District Clan. Lower District Clan. Jinhyuk's eyes shone at that. The Lower District Clan was in the south and had worked under the forces of evil. And they were a clan made of swordsmen who sold information, thieves, pickpockets, scammers, and the prostitutes in red light districts. However, that was a thing of the past, and now the clan is recognized as an information network. He can't be ignored. Jinhyuk tried to greet him when, I know. The beautiful lady here is Mo Il-ha, the daughter of the Criminal Affairs Minister, and you are Yu Jin-hyuk, the brother of Yu Jin-sung and a disciple of the Strong Three Teachers, right? It's an honor to meet you. The two were shocked by Haeryang. This man indeed was from the Lower District Clan. Whoa, how can you know all that by just looking at our faces? At Mo Il-ha's question, Haeryang answered with an excited voice. It would be strange to not know about the daughter of the Criminal Affairs Minister and the younger brother of the famous Yu Jin-sung. Amazing, Jinhyuk said in admiration. Mumu intervened and asked, Then do you know me? Haeryang frowned at that. He knew about the daughter of the high-ranking noble and the great younger brother who was a disciple of 3 amazing warriors. But who was the other one? The man looked nice, but he didn't know anything else. Excuse me, but I don't know you. I couldn't recognize the young master here due to my lack of knowledge. So could you please tell me about yourself, young master? Mumu. Huh? Haeryang was puzzled by the name, and Jinhyuk ended up explaining. Sorry, Mumu is the adopted son of our family. Adopted? If he was from Yu Jin-hyuk's family, then his father was just recently pardoned from exile, and it was his first time hearing about the adoption. But since Jinhyuk didn't want to talk about Mumu, he changed the topic. But about us not knowing much about the test, what do you mean? He never did hear about the test from his brother because he said that he had to go and experience it firsthand. Haeryang pointed to the entrance and said, See that gate over there? There was no way anyone couldn't see it. It was as tall as the wall, and there were dozens of smaller gates ahead of it. Pointing to the huge gate, Haeryang said, Opening that gate and entering is the first entrance test.